Good evening, this is BelGeode and we are back with some more Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition in the Vietnam era. We are here in Tuy Hoa Air Base in South Vietnam, which was the home of the 31st Tactical Fighter Wing, which used this aircraft, the North American F-100 Super Sabre, affectionately known as the Hun. Tonight we're going to attempt to reenact one of the types of missions that these F-100s would do from this airbase, called a Misty FAC, or Forward Air Control. Now the aircraft that we're going to be using is a freeware. Of course the link will be below. As you can see, the layout, it kind of looks like freeware, but hey, the price was right and it'll perform just perfectly for this mission tonight. If you're interested in downloading this aircraft, you can find it at Sim Outhouse. Just look for the F-100 by Lazarus. Alright, so first things first, let's go ahead and get started and we'll get our engine on. You can see our wing lead is just off to the side of us there. We're going to be following him throughout this entire flight. But first, let's get the engine started here. Alright, now that we've started up, let's go ahead and get the canopy down. The sounds do tend to be a little bit off, so I've kind of grafted some of the sounds from the Vertavia F-105 as well, just so you're aware. Alright, let's get clearance. Tuy Hoa ground, Air Force 9027, request taxi for departure to the north.
Air Force 9027, taxi holding point towards runway 3 right, contact tower on 118.9er, 1 ready.
Taxi holding point for runway 3 right, Air Force 9027. Alright, looks like our wing lead's already moving out, so as soon as he makes this turn, we'll go ahead and get rid of the brakes. And we are heading out. We'll try to stay as close to him as we possibly can without singeing ourselves here. Alright, come on, baby. There's a good girl. Okay. All I gotta do is straighten up here and I should be fine. Now, as usual, I'll give you the usual facts and statistics of this aircraft. I think what we'll do is we'll wait until we're actually airborne and in formation, and then I'll give you the history of the airplane and tell you just how well it performed in the Vietnam War. But let's make sure that I'm not going to get my nose burnt off there. Okay. I think we'll give him a little bit of leeway here. We'll have him taxi a little further down before we start putting the pedal to the metal here. Incidentally, he is me, just in case you were wondering. What I mean by that is I am using JoinFS, which is the same exact thing that I used a few weeks ago for that live stream that I did with Novawing 24 and several others. JoinFS also has built into it the same capability that FS Recorder had. The only difference is JoinFS is more updated and it'll actually work with all versions of the ESP platform, so that being FSX, FSX Steam, and of course Prepared. I don't know if he's gotten it to work with X-Plane yet, but since we're not flying an X-Plane right now, we won't worry about it. Alright, I wish I would have taxied faster when I recorded that particular aircraft. I'm actually getting annoyed at myself here. Sheesh! Alright, there we go. Okay, we're off. So as I stated before, this airbase was home to the 31st Tactical Fighter Wing, which consisted of several squadrons, most notably the 308th, the 306th, 309th, the 136th, the 188th, the 355th, and the 416th Tactical Fighter Squadrons. Now, all of those fighter squadrons that I just mentioned use the F-100 Super Sabre. Different varieties, however. They would use either the Charlie, the Delta, or the Foxtrot model. It's important to note that even though I'm trying to reenact the type of Misty mission that they would do, it's very important to recall that the type of aircraft that they used were actually two-seater F-100s, the F model. And the reason why they did that is because the backseater was the spotter, basically. He was the actual forward air controller, so he was the one who would actually track various targets or seek out our search and rescue victims that we had to oversee the rescue of. So bear that in mind as we're flying this mission. Now, the Misty missions became a thing in 1968 when the top-secret project, Project Commando Sabre, was transferred over from Phuket Airbase on the 1st of May. Even though these squadrons were able to pull off 100,000 combat sorties by September of 1969, in October of 1970, the entire 31st Tactical Fighter Wing was inactivated and withdrawn from service in Vietnam. Alright, we are ready to take off. I'm guessing I am waiting to check, see if there's any traffic. I have no idea why I stopped here. Huh. That's the beautiful thing about JoinFS. It records everything. And yes, that does include all the pauses in the action. Let's get clearance. Tui Hua Tower, Air Force 9027, ready at runway 3 right, north departure.
Air Force 9027, cleared for takeoff. Runway 3 right, departure to the north, approved.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 3 right, Air Force 9027. Okay. Any day now, Grandpa. Oh, you know what? I think there was a bird dog on final when I originally recorded that aircraft. I don't think I set the bird dog to be recorded, however, so I'm basically waiting for a phantom plane to land at this point. Oh well. Lessons have been learned. Next time, put your AI traffic either completely off or make it a part of the recording. In the meantime, let's go ahead and do our controls wipeout. Make sure everything's looking kosher. So ailerons are good. Elevator's good. And rudder. Oh, cool. Here we go. We're ready to move. Okay, so the wing lead is going to take the left side of the runway, and then I am going to take the right side of the runway. We're going to do it right here, or at least we're going to attempt to. As we taxi into place, one of the interesting things that I found out about the Misty forward air controllers, you could not volunteer to be one of these pilots unless both of the pilots have had at least 25 combat sorties and 1,000 flying hours. They were serious about the work that they did, and they did a pretty damn good job with it. From my understanding, the backseater carried a comprehensive set of detailed maps as well as a handheld 35mm SLR camera with a telephoto lens, which was affectionately known as the strike camera. And he usually handled all the communications and everything. Alright, are we ready to go? Brakes down, throttles up? That is the real question. Yep, looks like we are. Okay, spooling up. I don't think these brakes are holding. Alright, here we go. We are off. Full burners. Wow, this is a bumpy runway. Jeez. Alright, I don't want to pass my wing lead here, so I'm going to slow down just a touch. You can see there's a little bit of jittering. That is JoinFS. I haven't figured out what's causing that, but it's not too bad, so I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, gear is up. We are up. Let's get the burners on. We are ready to go. Okay, good deal. We won't be talking to them until we're ready to come back to base. So, up, and away. If I remember correctly, our flight plan is going to have us basically making an exaggerated U-turn to fly back over our airbase on our way north. Okay, we are almost in formation and almost up to our cruise altitude of 23,000 feet. So let me go ahead and give you some quick facts about the F-100. Of course, it's by North American Aviation. It had its first flight on May 25th of 1953, and it was introduced into service on September 27th of 1954. It is, of course, currently retired. You can probably find a whole bunch of them around the country in VFWs and so on. In fact, I even saw one at Flight Sim Con over at the New England Air Museum, so I should have a picture of that I'll be popping up at some point in time. The one that they had at the New England Air Museum was from the Connecticut Air National Guard, and if I remember correctly, they said it was actually a Delta model, so it wasn't the two-seat Foxtrot model that we're mimicking today. Be that as it may, whether it be the Foxtrot, the Charlie, the Delta, or any of the other number of different variations that they came up with, a grand total of about 2,294 of these birds were built between 1953 and 1959, and it remained in service with the United States Air National Guard until 1979, and also with the Republic of China Air Force until 1988. So here's some statistics on the aircraft. Traditionally it had a crew of one. Of course, the Foxtrot model is the major exception since that was used for the Misty missions. Its length was about 50 feet, had a wingspan of 38 feet 9 inches, and it was about 16 feet 2 3/4 inches tall. This jet had an empty weight of 21,000 pounds and a max takeoff weight of 34,832 pounds. It was powered by one Pratt & Whitney J57P21 or P21 Alpha turbojet, which delivered 10,200 pounds per feet. So that means that this sucker could fly just over Mach 1.3, or to put it in more conventional terms, about 750 knots or 864 miles per hour. Or, if you want to go metric, 1,390 kilometers per hour. There you go. It had a ceiling of about 50,000 feet and a range of about 1,733 nautical miles. With the burners going, this thing can rise up about 22,400 feet per minute. Insane, let me just tell you. As far as armament, it was equipped with 4 20mm Pontiac M39A1 revolver cannons. It could also fit 4 AIM-9 Sidewinders or 2 AGM-12 bullpups or 2 LAU-3A unguided rocket dispensers. It could also carry bombs, including nuclear weapons, Mark 7, Mark 28, Mark 38, and Mark 43. Now, on a typical Misty FAC mission, this bird would have been armed with the rocket pods, and in the rocket pods would have had white phosphorus rockets. The purpose for that was to mark any targets on the ground so that any fast-moving attack aircraft could come in and basically wipe it out. This thing was not meant for extended engagements. It was not supposed to get down and dirty like an A-10 Warthog, which ironically was one of the aircraft that would ultimately end up replacing this. Now, the aircraft did have a lot of titanium, so it did have a marginal amount of protection for the crew, which was good considering a lot of the times they'd be up in the air for about 6 hours. To be a Misty pilot is to be a part of an elite group. We're talking the best of the best here. Two of their members ended up being USAF Chiefs of Staff, that being Ronald Fogelman and Merrill McPeak. In addition to which, Dick Rutan also was a Misty pilot, and if that name sounds vaguely familiar, think about the unconventional shaped aircraft as well as the around the world trips. Now, for the purposes of our mission tonight, what we're going to be doing is what's known as ResCap, which is Rescue Combat Air Patrol. Basically, we're going to be the on-the-scene controllers, and we are going to guide our search and rescue helo in just across the Laotian border so that we can rescue some downed pilots that are trapped near a hill. On a typical Misty mission, the pilots would prep for this thing about 2.5 hours prior to takeoff. So they would do their briefing, they would study their targets and any photo and intel that they had gotten. They'd go through their frag order and receive their intelligence briefings on matters of significance, such as aircraft and crews that were lost the previous day. Because honestly, whenever they went out and did these missions, which primarily involved interdiction, usually it ended up being a ResCap type of mission. So they would work any rescues for downed aircraft, usually acting as, like we are today, the on-scene commander, until the A-1 Sandys and the HH-53 Jolly Green Giant helicopters arrived. Now, in our particular reenactment here, I don't have an HH-53 Jolly Green, but I do have Vertavia's SH-53 Sea Stallion. So we're going to be using that as our Jolly Green today, and it even has a nice little Jolly Green color. So when these guys would go in to do ResCap missions, the general rules were they had to stay fast. So between 400 and 450 knots, they had to do a lot of jinking, which is basically changing the flight path like every 5 to 7 seconds to avoid ground fire, and trying to stay above 4,500 feet, because obviously a lot of the enemies that they would encounter would be small arms fire and so on and so forth. So you got to make sure you stay out of range. Sometimes they would strafe targets of opportunity with the 20mm cannons that they had on board. However, that was generally avoided and usually only done at the very end of the mission when they were about to take off and get the hell out of Dodge. Make no bones about it, folks. Flying a Misty mission was a dangerous prospect. The loss rates were high. They lost about 22% of their complete force in the entire time that they were in Vietnam. Hopefully, we will not be one of those statistics, because we are about to go in. Now our rescue helo should have already launched from the airfield that we're approaching right now, which is DXTory Army Airfield, or Victor Victor Delta Tango. And I'm just trying to keep track of my wing lead here so that way we don't lose each other. So right over this mountain directly ahead of me should be the border of Laos, which stretches along the north and the south here. I can't seem to find my wing lead, but if we're sticking to the mission, most likely he's going to be a little bit higher than me, so that way he can spot any potential trouble, while I am going to be down low, basically supervising the helo that's coming in for the rescue, which you've already seen. Alright, so last intel that we got, our downed pilot should be a couple of clicks ahead. If I remember the intel photos correctly, there should be a farm on the side of a hill. The hill itself should be a bald hill. In other words, there's no trees, which is probably where our rescue helo is going to set down to pick up our pilots, since they were told on the radio to make their way to the top of that hill before Charlie could get a hold of them. So we should be coming up on that spot right now, so I'm going to do a little bit of recon from the outside here and see what I can see. Alright, so I've confirmed that we are definitely in the right neighborhood. We were able to raise our pilots and they are on the move, so they should be up on top of that hill by the time the Jolly Green gets here. So basically all we need to do right now is just keep an eye peeled for any enemy forces that may be encroaching upon the space where our pilots will need to be rescued. Pretty straightforward stuff, very dangerous mission. Because at this altitude, yeah, anything could go wrong. If there happens to be like AAA in the trees or something like that, this party's over before it even started. But luckily, my wing lead is above me right now, circling in the opposite direction, so he'll be able to give me a shout out if things start to go south really, really quickly. Beautiful countryside, though, I have to admit. Vietnam is definitely a beautiful country, I will give it that. Alright, you know what, I think I may have lost where the hill is. Okay, we're going to have to swing back around, because I know it's back over in the other direction, but I don't think I went far enough. We should be able to see the Jolly Green coming up in the next couple of minutes here. Alright, we have confirmed visual of the Jolly Green. Looks like they just touched down. So now comes the fun part. We've basically got to circle these guys and make sure that they are safe long enough for them to pick up our pilots and then get the hell out of here. Alright, it's not over yet. It is not over by a long shot. Now remember the general rules that I gave you earlier. We've got to stay fast and we've got to stay relatively low. So just doing a cursory glance, my speed could probably go up a little, but we're at least over 6,000 feet off the deck, so we should be fine. Now, the one thing that my resource information was not specific about was whether or not that was 4,500 feet AGL or MSL, in other words, above ground level or mean sea level. I'm assuming they meant mean sea level, but since we are circling a mountain right now, I would imagine that the altitude is considerably less than 4,500 feet. So let's just hope Charlie doesn't decide to come out of the tree line here until we can at least get our boys on board and we hear from the Jolly Green that they are good to go. Excellent. We've got visual of the Jolly Green dust-off, so they are on the move, which means we can finally get the hell out of here. Okay, so you may have noticed that Active Sky Next has decided to put a whole bunch of haze all over the place, which means I cannot find my wing lead right now, and since this is not a quote-unquote modern aircraft, there is no GPS or radar or even an RWR in here, so I have no idea where he is. But I did consider that contingency, and we are going to be meeting up over at Dokdo Army Airfield. So now that I know for sure that the Jolly Green is on the move, guess where we're headed? So my plan is quite simple: get to Dokdo, circle a little bit until our wing lead shows up, and then we can finally head home. One of the coolest things about JoinFS, which I'm using to generate the AI accompaniment for this mission, is the fact that you can open up a window and see every single aircraft within range of your aircraft. Not only that, but it'll actually tell you how far away they are. So I happen to know for a fact that my wing lead is only about 5 miles to the north, so he's still orbiting that area. But he should be here momentarily, and as soon as he gets here, he's going to buzz the base and then kick in the burners and head back up to about 24,000 feet. So hopefully I will be able to spot him when he gets here. Looks like he's booking. He's about 3 miles out now. But yeah, JoinFS, by the way, like I said, is freeware, so I highly recommend it if you ever want to do group flights with people instead of having to utilize the regular multiplayer that FSX has built in. Not only that, but if you do decide that you want to do some recordings for YouTube, now you know that it works for that as well. So we may never need to use FS Recorder ever again. It doesn't work all that well with Steam anyway, FS Recorder. So with our mission accomplished, the only thing left to do is sit back and enjoy the rest of the flight back to Tuy Hoa. This mission ended rather well. However, in real life, the Vietnam War was not so pleasant to some of the pilots that actually flew the Misty missions. Out of the 651 POWs that were returned from the war, 4 of them were Misties, and out of the 58,229 names that are engraved on a Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C., 8 of those names belong to Misties. And as for the venerable Hun, the F-100 Super Sabre itself, this aircraft would go on to garner many accolades, as well as being used to pioneer mission types that are now considered part and parcel of the U.S. Air Force tactics. Perfect example, the Wild Weasel suppression of enemy air defense mission. That started with this aircraft before being switched over to the F-105. In addition to which, this was the first Air Force fighter capable of exceeding the speed of sound in level flight. In 1955 it won the Bendix Trophy, and 2 of these puppies in 1959 became the first fighter jets to ever overfly the North Pole. Alright, we're getting pretty close to home base, so let me see if we have the airport on the list. No, it is not yet on the list. Alright. Oh, and one interesting tidbit that I can tell you about this aircraft is that it was used by the United States Air Force Thunderbirds in the Charlie model from 1956 to 1964, and again in the Delta model from 1964 to 1968. Okay, we have visual of the coast of South Vietnam, so we've got to be able to get this airport in range here. Doesn't look like it is. Oh well, it was worth a shot. I do know that we're going to need to start descending because, as you can see, we're still just over 24,000 feet. So I'm waiting for the wing lead to do his rollover and head on down, and I will, of course, follow suit. And let's see if we have our airbase on the list yet. No, still not on the list. I know I'm about 30 miles out. Huh. Oh, well. Okay, we've got to be close enough. Up, here we go, here we go. Alright, let's flip around here. And let me make sure I don't hit my wing lead on the way down. I'm going to roll myself back over here. Alright, that's what we're looking for, VVTH. So let's go ahead and get clearance. Tuy Hoa Tower, Air Force 9027, 31 miles northwest to land.
Air Force 9027, Tuy Hoa Tower, entered left traffic.
I don't see my wing lead anywhere. It's probably in the clouds to my left. Enter left traffic, runway 3 left, Air Force 9027. Alright, let's see if we can find our wing lead here. Where the hell did he go? He couldn't have gotten to the deck that quickly. Alright, well, I'm going to keep eyes forward here because I don't think he's going to slam into me. He is going to come down on 3 right. We're not going to do the formation landing thing because, yeah, that could end real badly for me. That is probably the only thing that I do not trust JoinFS with, only because I know myself. Still no sign of him, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about it too much, because if I remember when I was flying that particular plane, I had swung out to the right, so that way I could make like an extended turn around here, because I knew that I was going to be making a tighter turn when coming in on this flight, so I kind of planned ahead for that. Alright, so there is the lone hill. Just past that hill should be the river, and then just on the other side of the river should be Tuy Hoa Air Force Base. That's such a strange word to say, Tuy Hoa. Almost reminds me of Tui Lek, except it's not. A little Star Wars humor there. We'll see if you actually got that. Alright, time to brake right and begin my downwind leg. While we're at it, we can also get ready to put the gear out, because I'm pretty sure they're going to give us landing clearance momentarily. Alright, so we'll basically follow the river for a little bit until we get clearance, and then we'll make our base leg, and then our final will come on in. Okay, gear coming out. Oh! One important thing I should mention about this aircraft. Oh, hold that thought. Clear to land, runway 3 left, Air Force 9027. So yeah, one important thing that I forgot to mention about this aircraft, which I always found was pretty unusual. There are no flaps on this bird. There are slats, leading edge slats, but there are no flaps whatsoever on this aircraft. Of course, it does have speed brakes right underneath, but we probably won't need to use those until we get on the ground. And there is also a tail hook system as well as a drogue chute, but I don't think the drogue chute is modeled on this particular aircraft, so we'll have to put the tail hook down in order to slow us down. But we will deal with that in a second. I'm going to put it to the official BelGeode landing camera. And here we go. I think I'm a little bit high there. Okay, let's drop her down. Alright, that should be good. Start leveling off. Okay, flaring. We're almost on the center line. We'll drop it right here. Come on, baby. Nice and easy. Greaser! Very nice. Okay, speed brakes out. While we're at it, we'll go ahead and drop the tail hook / drogue chute that's not modeled. There it is. Okay, good deal. So our wing lead should be coming in any moment. Not seeing him as of yet, but that's okay because I'm going to take this all the way to the end. And on the last taxiway up ahead there, we'll just stop short of his runway, because I'm sure he should be landing any second now. Let's verify that. Yep, I have visual. I have visual. I see him. Yep, there's that puff of black smoke there. Okay, cool beans. We both made it back safely, and our pilots were rescued. They are back at the Army base, so we'll probably be seeing them later. But for now, let's go ahead and taxi back to parking so that way we can call this episode done. So yeah, needless to say, the F-100, very unique bird, very interesting bird. Obviously the successor to the F-86 Sabre. Oh, really? You're going to interrupt me now? Fine. 118.9er Air Force 927. Yeah, we're sold out calling them. So yeah, very unique aircraft. Came to life out of the F-86, but it's definitely left its own mark in aviation history for certain. And pilots to this day still talk fondly of the Hun. Alright, I'm going to hold short right here, and we're going to wait for our wing lead. Oh, there he is. Oh wow, perfect timing. Okay, so we'll have him go ahead, we will taxi on behind, and then we will park in the same exact spots that we took off from. Holy crap! I didn't realize I was that low on gas. Wow. Needless to say, in real life, these missions usually involved a lot of aerial refueling, but I did not anticipate that. We're lucky to have made it back. Wow. Alright, well, as soon as Grandpa over there finishes his taxiing, we'll follow him home. So I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed this episode. This is definitely one of my favorite of the Vietnam-era jets. Of course, I do know that Milviz has a PAYWARE version of this aircraft out that is considerably better than this freeware version that we're using. But you know what? I'm not even worried about it. This got the job done. And the only minor change that I needed to make was to change out the sound folder, because the default sounds are alias to the FA-18 Hornet that comes with FSX. I was not having that. So I just traded it out for the Vertavia F-105 Thunderchief, which of course you've already seen that video if you've been following the Vietnam era series. And I think it came out pretty good, so there will be no complaints from me. And JoinFS worked flawlessly, a little bit of jitters here and there, but I did hear on good authority that part of the reason why that is happening is because I needed to have locked my frames per second at 30 or 35. Right now I have frames locked at 60, and you better believe I am getting 60 on average in FSX Steam Edition. So lessons were learned, and the next time that I use JoinFS, I'll try the old 35 frames per second trick and see if that works out, and maybe it won't be as jittery when it's flying. But for what it is, it works very, very well. So huge thanks goes out to the creator of JoinFS. That would be Peter Memmott. Thank you so much for creating this little program. It is a godsend, because I've been agonizing for months, years even, with FS Recorder trying to get it to work properly with FSX Steam Edition. Your little program has solved that problem and also helped out tremendously when it comes to multiplayer flying. So yes, kudos to Peter Memmott, JoinFS. Alrighty folks, and we are almost to our parking spot. I believe we were just past that Hercules over there. Yeah, I want to say that was the case. We were just past that Hercules. So since we are almost to our final parking spot, I would like to thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed this little look at the F-100 Super Sabre, the Hun, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'm going to try and see if I can get these Vietnam era episodes out more frequently now that the new year has begun. I just need to make sure I have enough time to keep up with all the other stuff that I have to record. X-Plane, DCS, and of course the various MMOs and RPGs that I do. But be that as it may, I promise you this, you will definitely be seeing some more Vietnam-era planes, because I do have a few more that I'd like to show off. Alright, let's go ahead and park this sucker real quick here. Oh, hold on. I gotta stop. Brakes! There we go. Very nice. Wow, what a good parking job I did. Look at that! And Flight Sim Guy, I'm going to do this parking job twice. There we go. There's one. And here comes number two. Does it get much better? I don't think it can. We'll find out in a second anyway. Whoa. Almost hit the sides. Okay. There we go. Perfect parking job. Well, this one's kind of crooked, so you didn't see that. Alrighty, folks. That will just about do it for me, so we'll go ahead and turn off the lights and power down. Once again, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for your likes and for your comments. So yeah, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share. And I'm going to call it quits. So, this is BelGeode. I've been flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition in the Vietnam era. And I will talk to you all on the next one. Ciao!